Hey Threadheads! Well, I'm officially a married woman, woo! And I wanted to share with you how I made my DIY wedding dress, just in case you were interested in making your own version of it. It could work for a prom dress, it could work for a wedding dress, it could work for a costume. I'm really happy with how it came out. There's definitely things that I would change about it now, knowing what I know now. It was totally a learning process, going through the steps of figuring out how to make it. I had never made a corset before, so I had to learn how to make a corset first. I actually made two versions of the dress before making it in the Duchess satin that I used for the final dress. The fabric that I bought for the final version of the dress was about $25 a yard. I bought my fabric from this website, and again, it was $25 a yard, so when you're practicing making the dress, you really want to use something that does not cost as much. But let me tell you, even when I used muslin to make a mock-up of the dress, I had that bridal feeling when I tried on the muslin version of the dress. That's how in love with it I was. I altered the pattern a little bit before I made the final version of the dress, and I totally shouldn't have done that because I didn't have time to test out the alteration before I did it on the final fabric. I was literally sewing the last button on at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we were leaving at 7 a.m. to get on the plane to fly to where the wedding was. So it was chaotic. I really don't felt like I waited to the last minute. I mean, I spent a lot of time doing mock-ups of the dress and figuring out the fit and the patterns and even the skirt of the dress. I originally wanted to do a fitted skirt that was more of a mermaid type situation, and it was really difficult. I couldn't get it to look how I wanted it to look, so I abandoned that idea completely, and I actually ended up using a circle skirt pattern to make the skirt portion of the dress, and it worked out really great. It's actually super easy. The hardest part about making the dress for me was keeping the fabric clean, because you can get white fabric dirty like that. So basically what I had to do was tape white paper down all over the floor and do everything on top of that white paper. So when I was cutting out the circle skirt, and again, you know, it's a floor length skirt, so the circle was huge. You can learn how to make your own circle skirt. It's super simple. It's literally, you make the big circle and then the smaller middle circle where your waist hole would be. I have done a circle skirt tutorial before, but there's many circle skirt tutorials here on YouTube. Actually, Secret Life of a Bio Nerd just did a great one, so if you want to learn how to make your own circle skirt, I would check out her tutorial. I also made a lining using the same pattern, but I used a bridal lining fabric that can be found at voguefabricstore.com. They have everything you need to sew a professional garment. That's where I got all of my corset boning from, the steel boning. I got all the specialty needles and pins you need to sew satin and silk, because you need really, really sharp needles to sew that type of fabric. Otherwise, you'll get puckering, and no one wants that. I mean, you can always try to press out puckering, but for the most part, you'll always see a slight pucker if you don't use the right needles and the right thread. So you really want to take those precautions, because it's really sad when you've spent a lot of money on your fabric and kind of skimp on the needles and end up that being the downfall of your garment. So make sure to get the right needles. Again, voguefabricstore.com has just everything you need. The hardest part about sewing the skirt portion of the dress was hand hemming the bottom hem of the skirt. It took about 12 hours. I sat here and watched wedding movies the whole time I hemmed it, and on top of my white paper. I felt like a crazy person, and it took a really long time. But that's how you kind of have to do it with formal garments. You could just do a double turn hem and use the sewing machine. And now I'm kind of wishing I would have done that, because I literally got the bottom of the dress so dirty. When stuff like this happens, you really question spending 12 hours doing something. There is still twigs in here. Like, I literally have a twig in the dress. That looks like a footprint. I'm pretty sure that's a footprint. For the closure of the skirt, I used an invisible zipper and a waistband. And again, I've done videos on showing you how to do that. You can watch my how to sew an invisible zipper video to learn how to sew the zipper, and how to sew a skirt waistband to sew the waistband to the top of the skirt. For the corset top, I use the method I show in my video on how to create a costume corset, but instead I do everything the same. I'm using an invisible zipper in the back to close the back up, but instead of using plastic boning, which I show in that video, I use steel boning. It's a little bit more expensive, but I'm telling you, it's so much more worth it. Plastic boning only bends like this, but steel boning, you know, bends back and forth, but also side to side. It's pretty remarkable. So, you know, with plastic boning, you can have some buckling because it's not going to bend the way that you need it to bend for the boning channels. I mean, for a very simple, straightforward corset or bodice top, plastic boning could definitely work. But for something like this that you really want to define your shape, you really want to use steel boning. It is so much better. I got all my steel boning from VogueFabricStores.com as well, and they sell it in different lengths. So, you know, according to which section you're putting that boning in, you want to make sure you know which size each section of boning you're going to need. Again, this is kind of like what the boning looks like. It's really awesome because, again, it bends this way, and that's side to side, and then obviously it bends this way. So it's pretty awesome. Like, the stuff is really cool. And you want to make sure that it has the boning enders, the little caps on the end, because otherwise, you know, you could stick through your fabric, and you don't want that to happen. Another difference in the corset that I made for the wedding dress versus what I show you to make in my costume corset video is that for the lining fabric, I used a cotil. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I'm mostly self-taught, so I've never really actually heard that word spoken to me, but I'm pretty sure it's pronounced cotil. It's what they use for ballet corsets, and any type of standard real deal corset is going to use this fabric. It's a super strong fabric. It is crazy. It's super stiff, and there's no stretch to it. So basically, why you want to use this is because then for your outer fabric, you can use anything you want. It could even have stretch, really. But once you sew it together with this lining fabric, that fabric is not moving anywhere. Like, there is not going to be any stretching to the outer fabric. Between this fabric and the steel boning, you're not going anywhere. Cotil can be kind of expensive, but this website has it for a really good price, so I would check that out if you're interested. Another little detail that I really loved about the corset that I made for the wedding dress is that I added black satin buttons to the back, and essentially I just hand sewed them right through the lining fabric. It was the last thing I did. It was so last minute. I couldn't worry about being all picky about it, so you can definitely still see the stitching on this side, but they look so beautiful from this side. I've always wanted to have a wedding dress with buttons down my back, and I just loved the black satin buttons that I actually got from a website called As Cute As a Button. So if you're interested in finding some black satin buttons, that's definitely a good place to get them from. Also, you need the little button loops. You really don't need the button loops because I have the zipper, and once it's all zipped together, it just looks like they're buttoned because everything is so close together looking. But I wanted to, you know, make sure that I did it right. And the way that I added it was super easy. Before I put the zipper in, I just sewed it right along the seam line of one side, kind of pointing this direction. So it was like this. And then once I sewed the zipper in, it went like that. And so it was perfect and really easy to do, actually. I thought it was going to be a lot more finicky, but it was super easy, and I love how it turned out. For the black sash that I wore around my waist, I just used some Petersham ribbon. Again, I'm not really sure if I'm saying that right. Self-taught, never really heard that word said to me before. So I'm gonna say it how I think it's said, Petersham ribbon. Well, that's it. That was my wedding dress journey. I just wanted to share that with you because I know a lot of people have been wondering what the dress looked like and how I made it. So I really do hope that inspires you to try your hand at making your own formal wear. It's usually not as daunting as it may seem at first. It's always a lot more difficult in your mind than it actually is to do. Everything is a step-by-step process. As long as you do everything in the correct order, then you can make your own wedding dress or formal wear. Also, I'm really excited to announce that I'm going to be showing you how to create a new costume here on ThreadBanger every month. So I really need suggestions as to what kind of costumes you would like to see. You know, costume doesn't just have to be for Halloween. There's all kinds of cosplay events and Comic-Con conventions that people are always looking for a good costume how-to. So send in your ideas, and also don't forget to send in pictures or videos of your cozy warm yarn projects for our outfit of the day video that'll premiere at the end of the month. You can email pictures to threadbangerstyle@gmail.com or post videos as a video response right here on YouTube. All right, everyone, I'll see you later.